Hello, hope you're doing well. So recently I released the Reapertips theme and it was my first time building a theme. I learned a lot during my process and I thought I'll put together everything I learned into one video, and this is the most advanced stuff. I already made a video with most of the basics. This video is gonna cover most of the real, like actually tweaking the images file with photo editing and also all the code and stuff like that. Not very advanced, so it's very much surface level, and it's basically what I did to build the Reapertips theme. And if I could do it, you can totally do it as well. So this is the most basic things to learn, and from here you can totally build your own theme if you ever want to do that. So yeah, I'm gonna just start this, and it's gonna be unedited and very long form, I believe. So I suggest you put the playback speed high. I talk very slow, so I'm sorry for that. But yeah, let me start with, let's tweak the default theme. That's how I started building this. So I had this theme, and I said, what don't I like about this? So I started from the top, the transport bar. But I needed first we need to go to the theme, and to do this, yeah, like I showed you in the video before. If you haven't watched that, you should watch that first. I go over all these steps, but I'm gonna do this again. So just go to the theme and let's open it so we can see the files inside that we're gonna tweak. So opening the theme is pretty easy. Just add zip, use zip, uncompress this, and we should be able to get access to all of the theme images. These are the images that we're gonna tweak to get the theme going. But first I'm gonna do something. I'm going to click and drag this file that I got from the uncompressed file into here, and it's gonna look broken, but now we can go to the actions menu and type theme tweak, and in here we're gonna point this path, the image resource path, to the folder that we just uncompress. This is a way that we can later preview the changes. So this is the folder of the images, and I point it to that. So now all the images loaded, reload images. So every time we want to preview something, we can just click reload images. So now let's tweak something about this theme. And I was thinking we should start with the most simple thing so I can show you. So let's say that we want to start from the top, the transport bar. So logically, these are very well labeled. You'll see at the first line where they belong. So the transport icons are actually start with transport. So it's a matter of like trying to find the icon that you want to tweak and pretty much do it up on top of that, or build your own following the same measurements or getting inspired by it. So the program of choice that we're gonna use today is Affinity Designer. Now, I tried a lot of programs. I tried Photoshop, I tried Illustrator, I tried Figma, I tried GIMP, and all these apps. And Affinity is the best. I really recommend it. It's a one-time payment. I believe it's like $20. So if you really want to get into this theming, I highly recommend getting this because it made my life so much easier. Maybe I can show you this. This is how I made all the images all in one project. It's just so convenient to have everything in just one project, and it runs so well. Like all of these are all the images I made, and I'm able to export all of these in one click into multiple scaling, and I'll show you later in the video how I set that up, but it's just the best. I honestly don't think this would take ages with Photoshop, I'm sure. It's really is a time-saving program. However, you can totally use other free apps, like I believe GIMP is free. Also Figma is very good for this as well. But yeah, I highly recommend Affinity. Now, yeah, we want to tweak the transport play. So I already made a project in Affinity Designer, and it's just a big artboard where I'm just putting the images in here. Nothing special about this project. I just click and drag the icon into here. And now we can learn a few things about this image. You will see that this image repeats itself 3 times. That means that there's 3 states of this image. First is the normal stage that you will see normally, and when you hover your mouse over it, it's the one here in the middle. And when you press this icon, this is the images that you're gonna see. A lot of the images in Reaper are in these 3 states kind of thing. So normal state, hover state, and press state. That's basically how they work. They are the same measurement. So a way to know how much the size of each image, you will see the width. Right now you'll see that it's 99 pixels wide and 35 pixels height. So basically you will do 99 divided by 3, and that's the size of the icon. So the first icon is 33 wide and the height is 35. So with Affinity we can make these rules just to guide us to see where the original image begins and starts, and we can make a rectangle with the measurements that we just got. It was 99 by 3, 33, and height is 35. So when I put this over here, that means that this will be the first state of the icon. Now, you can totally duplicate this, and let's make this into another color. So maybe this one, and this one another color, like this. So now I have basically my 3 states. So the normal, the hover, and the press. And I could name this just to make it normal, hover, and press. Let's render this and apply the changes into Reaper so we can see what's going on. So once I imported the image in here, and you can see the images in here, the transport play. So I'm gonna make a group, and to do that we do Command G or Control G to make a group. Now this is inside a group with this image first. I'm basically gonna put all of the images that the blocks that I made in there, and I'm gonna line it up with that one. By the way, it's really important that you worked in pixel mode. All of these images are optimized to work in pixels. Since this is a vector program, you might get sometimes, if you don't have the snapping to pixel, you might get things that are not out of pixels, like maybe 90.5. Like this is gonna look blurry. Look at when I enter pixel view mode. This is gonna look blurry. You don't want that. So you wanna have all things all the time to be pixel perfect. So for this, you just need to make sure that you never have 0.5 or point something in either your position or your scales. So always make sure that your things are pixel perfect. And to do that, we can set this affinity to pixel work, and this is gonna do all the snapping, always gonna be in pixels. And to see things in pixels, you will press this icon in here. So all of the things that you make, you're gonna see them in pixels. If you were in vector mode, you would see it much more fluid. Things will be much more fluid and smooth looking. But that's not how Reaper works. Reaper works with pixels. So yes, always work with pixels. So now that we have this, we need to make sure that we name the group the same name as the image. So transport play, I'm gonna copy over this and paste that in here. Now, to export this is the cool part about Affinity. So it depends of the program you're using, but I'm gonna show you how to do it in Affinity. You will go to the export persona in here, and basically click on the group that you want. So layers, this group right here. You're gonna select the group and click on this icon right here, and right click, create slice. Basically, this is gonna create a slice that is just the perfect measurement, and if it's not, you can adjust it with this icon in here. You can adjust the slice of the thing. So basically, this is gonna render whatever is inside the group. So if you do this, it's gonna only render this part. So yeah, just make sure it's the same length as the original image. And to render, we can totally use this icon right here to directly render it into the image folder from before. And let's do that. Let's export and replace the image that we had in there. So that's gonna replace the original default transport play. So let's go to Reaper, and let's go again to the theme tweak. I have this shortcut in here, and click on reload images, and you will see that now this icon is whatever we just tweak in Affinity. So hover state is blue and press state is yellow. That's the best way to see what's going on here. So you see how it's perfectly changing without any stuttering or something. So yeah, that's a good indication that we did a good job and we got the perfect measurements, and we can totally use this now, this whole spacing here, to start building our icon. So to build our icon, now that we got the guides, and let's actually finish this one right here. We can totally hide this and use those as reference. So I'm gonna make a circle to be around the same size as the original one. I believe it's 30 by 30. I always make sure that these things are, I like to work with numbers that are divided, that can be divided by 2. So multiples of 2, that's how you say that. You will see why later in the video, but it's best to always keep your measurements to be multiples of 2. So let's do an icon. I'm not gonna go too crazy with this, just for the sake of the example. Always make sure that you're in pixel mode so you can see how things will actually look when they're in the project. So for example, some things are not gonna be too smooth. So in Affinity you can do command 1 to go 100%. Zoom, that's really important because that's how you will see the image. You're never gonna see the image this close, but it's a good way to keep zooming out to see how the final thing is gonna look like. So we got the icon, and I'm gonna hide the icons from before. So we just made the first normal state, and this is an icon that is inside the bounds of the normal, and basically you need to repeat the same thing into the hovered state and the press state. Let's say that we like this one. I'm gonna make a group of this icon, and I'm gonna duplicate this by Command J, Control J in Affinity, and I'm gonna move this using the edge swap position to be the same length as the size of the first icon. So if this was, I remember it was 33 width, that's the width, that's the number that we're gonna use to move the duplicate. So plus 33, and now that should line up perfectly. And if we do it again, at least in Affinity, it learns. Oh well, let me do that again. In Affinity, they have a really cool thing that if you do the same thing over and over, it's gonna learn from it and duplicate it again at the same distance. So that's a really big time saver. But yeah, make sure to move it by equal distance, and so it always has the same space. So right now I'm noticing that, yeah, it's a little bit not balanced. This one has like 2 pixels here, 1 pixel here. So yeah, that's gonna probably happen a lot. But that's a thing about this, some of the images in Reaper. Since this is 99 width, that means it's 33 each icon, and that's just almost impossible to get the center. That's what I mean when not using multiples of 2. It's really tricky to get things aligned to the center. So yeah. So with the sport persona that we did, actually let's make this one another color. So, and this one can be blue. So now we can do the same thing here. You will see how easy it is now that we have the slice set up. Transfer play. Let's go. Now let's go to Reaper, reload the image, and our image looks very stretched and weird. What the hell? It shouldn't be. Is this doing... Hold on. Oh. I think... Yeah, it got messed up. Sometimes this happens in Affinity. The slice changes for some reason. So you just need to be careful with that. So we just readjusted the slice, and now it should look good. It doesn't look good. It's not sporting the way it should. So actually, yeah, that's a wrong measurement. 99.35. Yeah, it should be the same. 99.35. So yeah, we were doing this the wrong measurements. That's why. I'm not gonna cut this. I'm just gonna roll with it. So now we set the slice to the actual width. So you can see the issues and how I resolve them. So now it should be good. So reload the image, and there you go. Now it's perfect. So hover state is red, pressing is blue, and normal is yellow. Good. Now we tweak the first icon. That's the start. That's how everything started for me, basically. That was the first icon I made, and and from there I just jump into this huge rabbit hole, basically. So now the other images are the same, basically. So they will be, some of them have a on state. So when you're doing the record, this is the normal state, and when it's recording you will see this icon. Same thing with the play button. When it's playing, you will see this icon. You have to do all of those, and basically, yeah, you just have to go over all these files. I highly recommend the Affinity template from Rearc. That's what I started using. It already has all the images in there, so you can easily tweak and export. And that's if you're not changing the original measurements. For my theme, I did change some of the size of the icons, and for that you will have to go to the rtconfig, and this is where it gets a little more complicated. Honestly, I spent way too much time on this, but at least for deciding the new size of the images, it's a little straightforward. Some of the things are very well labeled, so you can find that. For example, right now, if we go to the transport, you will see that this is actually very straightforward. If you change the size of the image, you can change it directly in here. So let's say that I made a new transport icon that is actually 28 by 28, because I like multiples of 2, and you will see why in a bit. That's actually what I ended up using. And you can also adjust the position, the XY positioning here. So naturally, since I made the images smaller, I had to compensate with a little bit more of the Y axis. But yeah, these are very straightforward to change. Other things are not that straightforward. You can try to find the sizes and tweak. Always back up, and that's a thing. Like, always change things, but always have a backup so you can come back. So I highly suggest tweaking this like crazy and see what each thing does. But yeah, that's all I'm gonna do with. I don't know what that is. Okay. That's all I'm gonna talk about with the rtconfig. That's a whole another video, I guess. But yeah, let's keep going with the type of images. So we just went over the most common image, that is this one. And I think it's a good time to explain that Reaper has 3 scaling modes. So 3 types of sizes for images. So you will see there's 150 folder and a 200 folder. And this is why Affinity is so good for this. Because since you're working with vectors, vectors can be infinitely resized without losing quality. That means that you can pretty much grab this icon that we just made and multiply it by 2, and you can easily do it in the export persona. You can do a plus in here and have a 2x, that means 2 times the size. Change the name to 200/slice image, and that's gonna place the image in the 200 folder when you do export slices. So let's do this so you can see what's going on. So I'm gonna click export by export all slices, and it's gonna ask me it's gonna replace this thing and this thing. As you can see, it's actually going into the 200 folder. That's a major time saver. That's why I like this program so much. And you can do export, and now the 200 image will also be changed. And you can totally confirm this by going into preferences, advanced UI, and going to here. Oh, need to enable these spots. And let's reload the image. Oh, Jesus. Okay. I got a point at the folder again. Shouldn't have clicked that. There you go. Now you can see that in the duets size, the play button is working fine. So let's go back to the scaling of 1. By the way, to test each of the scales, you can do, for example, the 150 folder. You can check by doing 1.5, and you will see these are another set of images that you have to do. This 1.50 resolution scale, I mean, is the most tricky one, and you will see why, because it's not as straightforward as multiplying by 2. I will show you why. So basically the issue here is if you want to export this at the different scales, so 1 ads, 2 ads, this is fine. But if you do 1.5 ads and you see that this dimension is 99 and 35, which is not multiples of 2, it's not an even number, and you multiply this by 1.5, it's gonna give you decimals. And if it gives you the decimals, that's not good, because it's gonna look blurry and the hover state is gonna look all misaligned. Like you're gonna hover the icon and it's gonna shift a little and just gonna not gonna give you the best results. What I like to do in this case is find the original icon in 150 folder and see what dimensions they're using. I noticed that they're using 150 times 53, and I'm gonna put this in here as reference. So basically I need to have this size to end up the same size as this one. So what they did in here was add a number, I believe. So instead of 99.1.5, they did 100. So they raised a number, so it's an even number. And for 35, they use 36. So basically, what you need to do is get this dimension, 150 times 53, and add that in here manually. So it will be 150 width, and what was the 53? It was 53, right? Yeah, 53. 53 height. So basically 150 width, 53 height. Now that should work. And let's make sure to put this 150 like this. And now when we export this, it should export correctly to the desired numbers. So let's do this, and now let's gonna export. And now if we go to the 150 folder, I'm actually not in the right folder, so it should be in here, transport play, should be this one. So yeah, it's in here and it's using the correct measurements, so this should work fine. Now if you're doing something that is very pixel perfect, I will highly recommend just duplicating this thing and manually doing the 150. Sometimes you have to do that for the really precise stuff, so that's the only issue. But yeah, for these kind of images, you can totally just do it like this. That is, if your image doesn't have pink lines, and that's the whole nother story. Luckily, there's not a lot of images with pink lines, but those are tricky because in here you cannot do the scaling thing, and this is where it gets a little bit annoying, because you cannot scale this image because the pink line needs to be exactly 1 pixel long. And what are pink lines? They're a mystery. Honestly, I did end up understanding how they work, but a lot of times they're a mystery to me. But I'm just gonna show you what I learned. So we already are pretty good with this type of images, and I believe like 60% of the images in Reaper are images like that. So you should be golden with these type of images. And by the way, if you're doing a theme for yourself and you don't want to share with anyone, you can totally just do one resolution. If you're doing, so you don't have to do all the scaling thing. You can totally skip all that. This is only if you're doing a theme that a lot of people are gonna use. So, and yeah, it's the best thing for accessibility. So now let's plane pink lines while I'm drinking a little water. Alright, let's go. Pink lines. Pink lines are best explained with, yeah, this icon is really good to explain pink lines. However, I would like to put this over here, so let's put this over here. Okay, so that's clean. Let's get rid of this. So pink lines are basically instructions for Reaper. In this image, the pink line is saying that all of the lines starting from here all the way down to here, it's telling Reaper not to stretch them. Do not stretch this part of the image because the font will look super weird, will look all stretchy. So that means that this yellow part is not gonna be stretched. And since this is a 3-state image like we learned before, the other part of the pink line is on the other side. But you can try to think of this as one icon. In fact, let's actually do it like that. So I'm gonna recreate this pink line real quick. I already got the color, which by the way, it's in a specific color. And it doesn't work if it's another color, it just has to be that color. So, oh god, my mouse is freaking out. Okay, there you go. So now let's think of this way. Let's ignore the rest of the image. Let's ignore this by using the same. Yeah, now that's clean. Now we can think of this as, let me show you. Okay, there you go. Now, this part of the image, the pink line is telling that this part shouldn't be stretched either. So what's left? It's this tiny thing in here. And that means that part can be infinitely stretched however you want. And that's okay that it's gonna get stretched because there's nothing important in there that needs to preserve anything. It's basically enlarging the background, so you can totally have this to resize as much as you want. Pink lines need to be 1 pixel outside of the frame. So basically these pink lines are saying, hey, do not stretch this part or this part below this part and above this part. And these at the sides, they work on the different direction, the opposite direction. So let's duplicate this and make it red. These ones are saying that, hey, do not stretch these and do not stretch these, basically. So yeah, that's what pink lines are for. So this one at the top, it's always gonna be facing to the opposite direction. So these ones, since are facing up down, it's the yellow ones. And since these are like that, it always gonna start from left to right. The pink lines are gonna start from the left corner to the bottom right corner. And that's pretty much how they work. I hope that was clear. Still, some pink lines are different than others, and you will see that some react a little different, and it's because they're using a different method. But for most times, it's as straightforward as this. Now, as you remember, this was a 3-state image. That's why it might get a little bit more difficult to understand. So this is actually an image this long, and the pink line is over there. The only difference when doing this is that the pink line is gonna be at the at the last icon. So basically as if it was in the first icon, but it's just gonna be at the end. But you should totally treat it as one, since these are the same 3 icons. The pink lines are gonna be applied to basically it's the same as if each of these had pink lines, but it just treats it like one in here. So that's pink lines. Now, what other thing can I show you? I hope that was clear. There's a PDF by Walter Ty explaining pink lines. That's how I learned about this. It's very well explained. You can check that out. Okay, here's why it gets a little bit more complicated to understand. So in here, by definition, like we learned recently, this is saying that all these lines should be stretched, right? And all these lines should be stretched, I guess. But in this case, in this specific case where you see this yellow line, it's actually working in a different way. The yellow line is indicating that this part right here, this part is an overlay. That means that this is gonna be out of bound. The image, let me color it different. The image size is 30 by 30, and you can see that it starts here, starts here, starts here. It's like making a little frame of what the original size, but it's adding 2 pixels at the bottom as an overlay. That means it's including a little shadow that is gonna be out of the 30 by 30 pixels bound. This is a great way to add shadows or overlays, in general, to your images. It's like saying, hey, you should, these 2 pixels, put it just below the bounds that we set the icon in. So it's gonna use only the red part to position the thing in Reaper, but this right here is gonna be below without respecting any rules. It's just gonna be like bleed, pretty much. It's like a little bleed that can have your images. So this shadow, it's good for shadows, it's good for borders, and you will see it very clear when you see the item background. The item background is saying that, hey, the item background is saying that this image, this part of the image is gonna be just out of frame. So this means that this black bar won't be actually inside your item. This black bar is gonna be outside of your item. Same thing as this one. This is actually 2 pixels out of the frame of your items. And if we go to Reaper, you will see this clearly. Let's actually make this 2 times so we can see the items really big. I need a waveform. Let's actually get this one from here and paste it in here. Now you will see that the border is actually outside is actually outside of the bound. Same thing as these borders right here. They are outside of the item. If this didn't have the yellow lines, these lines will have been inside the item, which is not ideal. You want these lines to be out of the item. So it's a good way to do that. Now, if you had some shadows, like I had in some of my, like a really subtle shadow, or more like a bezel, in this, for example, I'm saying, hey, this should be stretched, and this should go outside of the image. Same thing as here. This little rectangle should be out of the frame, and this little highlight can be inside of the image. But none of these things until here can be stretched. What can be stretched is this area right here, and that's what it's gonna be for stretching. I have a pretty large, but honestly, it can totally be like this. I had it this large because I had this little. Let me see if I still have it. Is it this one? Oh yeah, I had this little glow gradient at the top, but I ended up not liking it. I like it more flat, so you can totally just lower it like this. I hope that explained pink lines and yellow lines. You will see more examples in here. For example, you don't want to stretch this part of the image because there's these icons and these curves. You will put this line in there, but you want this part of the image to stretch as much as they want. So this part can be stretched, and that'll be for the items in the plugin window. Same thing with this one. This is the last example of pink lines, by the way. So you'll see that this part cannot be stretched, and this part in the middle, which is this little dot, I believe this is the volume background. This little dot, that's the actual slider in the volume background. That's how it can be stretched infinitely. So it's always like a line. So this thing in the middle can be stretched, the others cannot be stretched. And it's also saying that this part is outside of the frame and overlay, which is a yellow line. Same thing with this one. There's a shadow in here, and there's a square for the volume knob in there. And yeah, those are the type of images. Now, let me show you a method in Affinity. Should I show you? Yeah, let's just, if you're using Affinity, keep watching. If you're not using Affinity, try to replicate what I'm doing in another program. So when you have pink lines, let's try to find a pink line. Let's say this one, actually. Let's say that we want to make the 200 version of this. Let's actually make this into a group and quickly recreate it. So this is let's make this crazy colors. So red, maybe blue, and let me make the pink lines. So this would be pink, another pink square here, and one last pink in here, yellow, same thing here. Let me do yellow in here, pink in here, and pink in here. I believe that's good. Let me select all of the images. Now I have everything into a group in here, and Do I have the reference? I don't, but that's okay. I forgot to put this one in here. I'm gonna put it in here. Always make sure that your things are pixel perfect. In this case, we are. What was the name of this? This is called TCP volume background. So that's gonna be the name of my group. So, oh, we're missing. I'm gonna put the pink lines into a group. Pink lines. And we're just missing this little dot, which is black. There you go. I believe we're in the right bound. Yeah. So we just recreated the volume background. So now what do I do if I want to do the same thing but 2 times the size? So basically I'll grab the image, the content, make a group into it. Then let's call it icon. And in Affinity there's a feature called symbols. You'll find it in here. And you can pretty much create a symbol that can, and when you, now that this is a symbol, you can totally duplicate this, and whatever change you make into one of the things inside the symbol, it's gonna move into this other thing. This is super useful for doing these images, and you will see why. And a lot of the other images, you can totally use symbols for the different states or stuff like that. It requires a little bit more of planning before doing things, and I didn't fully use it in my Reapertips thing. I wish I had, but when I used it, it saved me a lot of time. It's a really cool feature. So with symbols, you can pretty much duplicate them. And the magic part is that you can totally make them bigger like this. They're gonna retain all the positions, and even if I move this, it's gonna still be the same relative position. So you see I'm putting this in the corner and the other corner, and it's just the same thing but bigger. That's a perfect thing, because that's what we need when we doing this type of images with pink lines. So to make the pink line version, the 200 version, I will duplicate this this thing, and I would grab the symbol and do the same thing I just showed you to do. I make sure that it's the bound is here, so it stretches, maintaining this pink line here. So I'm just gonna do ×2, and now my thing is 2 times the size. So now it's a matter of like readjusting the pink lines to actually work the same way as this. So I believe we had, ooh. So where are the others? What happened to the other pink lines? So we had this thing. Oh, okay. Yeah, that one wasn't in the group, so I'm gonna put it inside the group. So I'm gonna put this over here. Now it should be in the group. Okay. So I'm gonna actually duplicate this pink lines and put it here, just because I updated them. So I'm just gonna move them, place it in the corner. So now the ones that are right here at the corner, gonna move them and try to do the same thing as this one. So this one had this little space to stretch. So basically we just wanna recreate that thing in here. So I'm gonna stretch these and these to there. And since everything is double in 200, that means that this needs to be double as well. I mean, this depends a lot of the image. If you don't see that it needs this overlay, then don't do it. Basically, try to follow the same logic. If this was 2 height, basically now this should be 4 height, because everything doubles in 200. Or you can just do it by eye. A lot of times I just did this by eye without looking at numbers. If you can see what makes sense to include at the pick lines, yeah, just roll with that. So yeah, this is now our 200 version, and to make it easier to export, we're just gonna include 200/TCP volume background like that, and now we can make these two, create slice, and that should be perfect, I believe. Yes, I thought I was looking at some bad stuff, but it should be fine. So now that these are set up, all I need to do is just export slices, and they should be now in Reaper. Let's see. I'm gonna update this thing. Where's the reload images? And I believe that was the fader background. So let's get the fader. So yeah, there you go. The fader works. And let's switch to the oh, not that one. Let's switch to the one size. Yeah, there you go. That's how we made an image like that with the pink lines. Now with the Affinity template that React has, he already has a lot of symbols prepared. He really did an amazing job with this. So a lot of the changes that you make in one can spread into the others. So that's how I use a lot of these things. So you can see everything moves accordingly. What else can I show you now? So we just went over a lot of things, and thank you so much for your patience. And if you're still listening to me, that's so crazy. I've been talking for, I guess, an hour. But it's a really good English practice. I don't get to speak English so much. So it's a good practice. What else? Oh, another type of image. The TCP volume up stacks. I think this deserves a whole new video. This took me a while to understand and to make them. And I feel like I still don't have the best way to make them. I know how they work. I can recreate them. But the problem is sometimes it's just very difficult to do all the automation to create all these. It's a lot of work. And then you have to do the same thing for the 150 version and 200 version. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. But if you do it with multiples of 2, remember that you only have to do it once. But if you do multiples of 1, you have to do it 3 times. Yeah, that's what we learned today. Multiples of 1 or 3, whatever. Odd numbers are not good. Odd number? Or even. Yeah, odd numbers are not good, even numbers are good. Okay, so let's use this image as an example. This image is has 20 width and 90/40 height. That means Reaper is gonna look at this image and pretty much do the division itself. If the image is perfectly square by square, repeat it a lot times, it's basically gonna look for square, 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 and that's gonna make it so it's actually get the knob in here. It's gonna, when you drag up and down your image, it's basically showing all the different frames, and since they are in the same position, it can kind of look like a film strip. So when you do this, it kind of looks like it. So how to make them? Basically, you just need to do a square icon. So we knew that the width of this is 20, and you can see that if I position this in here, you will see that it lines up. Let's actually make this red so you can see. And the other one, the other knob will be here, and so forth, and so on and so on. So it's always a new button, and each of them needs to be gradually increasing from the lowest amount to the highest amount. It always starts from the lowest to the highest. So if you have something that starts in the middle, that's a different thing. For example, these, I had some that start in the middle, I believe. So these start in here. No, actually, I don't. It always starts from the bottom left, as you can see. Bottom left eventually turns into all the way to bottom right. So I think I could make a video about how I automated this. But basically I use mouse, some keyboard master, I believe, and I just try to record. I just try to find a pattern when I was doing all the different slices, and I recorded that into Keyboard Maestro, or you can find any other macro creator, and I just run that a lot of times. A lot of times I failed. This took me a while to do, but in the template there's a lot of things already set up, so maybe you just have to change the color in there, or maybe change the radius, stuff like that, to everything. So maybe you can just use that. I had to go to eat. I'm so hungry. But I think that's it. That should give you a really good grasp of what tweaking images and making your own theme. Like, this should be enough. You just need a lot of patience. It's a lot of trial and error. You have to break things in order to understand what they are. Especially with the rtconfig. Just break it. And I highly suggest using this website. Let me show you diff checker. You can totally paste the RT configuration, the original one, and maybe find the RT configuration from a theme you like. So let's actually go for my theme and copy over all of that, paste that in here. And this is what I used to understand what people were changing about the RT config, and then I understood why they did it. So for example, in my theme I'm adding all these things I added, and I remove all these, so you can understand why they did it. Sometimes I did a poor job commenting all of this, but most other people, like for example Rearc, he commented that this aligns the indent correctly with the skin images, and this improves the TCP meter readability and all that. Those are very helpful. I did a poor job with the changes I made, but it's mostly, yeah, changing the size and the order of things. Maybe I should make a video about the RT config and all the things I learned in there. But I feel like I'm not the most qualified to do it. It's a very difficult thing. I wish someone's like, there's so many people that really know this stuff. I wish they made a video about it. It would have made everything so much simpler. That's why I'm making this video, because I feel like there's not a lot of content about this. And I hope my unscripted video helps you in any way. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I hope it helps. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm always available, via Discord, Instagram, or whatever. So yeah, thank you so much, and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.